This is CBC Here and Now.
We have some of the lowest personal income taxes in Atlantic Canada, and that has to change.
A day after the State of the Province address, Premier Andrew Furey drops more hints on how to fix the finances.
Expect taxes to go up.
The weekend is here. The weather's going to improve for some areas of the province, but it looks like some temperatures are going to drop for others.
Focus on him for one day because he deserves that more than anything.
Trying to salvage their son's grad night after losing almost everything in a fire this week.
How friends and family have come together to help out the Collins family.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Peter Cowan. The jury is still out in the sexual assault trial of an RNC officer.
Tonight, jurors are still deliberating over the Doug Snellgrove trial. The suspended RNC officer is charged with sexual assault. The jury was sequestered yesterday afternoon, but briefly emerged today. Here and Now's Katie Breen is live tonight with the latest. So Katie, where do things stand now?
Well, it's unclear when exactly we're going to get a verdict. And actually, just moments ago, I was informed by the court that the jury actually has more questions, or at least one more question for the judge. They did have questions earlier today around reasonable doubt. They wanted clarification on how Snellgrove's position as a police officer could influence Jane Doe's ability to give consent. And this is the third trial in 4 years for the complainant and the RNC constable. The alleged sexual assault happened in 2014. According to the Criminal Code of Canada, consent cannot be given when a person is in a position of power, trust, or authority and induces another into sexual activity. That's a key part of this case. Snellgrove was on duty at the time. He drove the complainant home from a downtown nightclub in his patrol car before going into her apartment. The woman said they kissed and sat on her love seat because she felt too drunk to stand. The next thing she knew, she said she, quote, came to, and he was having sex with her. Snellgrove testified that the complainant initiated sex and consented to all acts between them. His lawyer argued that the complainant was clear-headed and sober enough to give consent, and he questioned her credibility, saying she changed her testimony over the 3 trials. The first trial in this case started in 2017. It ended in an acquittal for Snellgrove. It was appealed over the judge's instruction to the jury around consent. The judge in the second trial called a mistrial before a verdict was reached because he incorrectly dismissed alternate jurors. Now, there were, like I said, questions earlier today, but the jury also wanted to see if they could hear the testimony over again. Once the judge answered the questions, he said he'd let them decide whether or not they still wanted to hear testimony. They said they didn't and went back to deliberating, but as I told you, they still have at least one more question for the judge tonight. We're unsure when we're going to get a verdict, but CBC will continue to cover the case. Live for Here and Now, I'm Katie Breen in St. John's.
While still with the courts, police have charged a man with a hit-and-run in Labrador. Simon Tremblay is facing several charges, including failing to stay at the scene of an accident involving a death and failing to help an injured person. The body of 26-year-old Ryan Nook was discovered on the highway outside of Happy Valley Goose Bay last August. He was from Shehajit. Tremblay is scheduled to appear in court in Happy Valley Goose Bay next month.
A number of areas today across the province reaching the double digits. 10 degrees in St. John's, 11 in Badger, same thing for Corner Brook, and then we've got those double digits down along the southern portion of the island as well. Temperatures still sitting around 6-7 degrees for most of Labrador, and then for coastal areas between 2 and 3 as your daytime highs today. So that area of low pressure that I've been talking about all week is finally slowly starting to move off. We are seeing some showers though across most of central as well as eastern Newfoundland, and that will generally be the story as we head through the overnight tonight, with that chance of showers continuing. And then across Labrador, showers changing over to the potential of rain or snow as we head through the overnight and into the first half of Saturday. But conditions are going to start to improve for you across Labrador. I will get into all of those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Premier Andrew Furey has responded to questions about the recorded State of the Province address he released yesterday. The Premier didn't give a lot of specific details about what will be done to rein in Newfoundland and Labrador's spending problem, but he did hint at what areas might be affected. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Premier Andrew Furey gave a very short, concise answer to the question, is he willing to do things that will make him unelectable?
Yes.
But when pressed for detailed answers on exactly what he will do, he said it's too soon to say.
This has only been a week since the report's come out. So if everybody here today is expecting me to have all the answers and specifics in terms of a path forward, we can cut this very short right now.
Furey did signal that income taxes will be going up for some people.
We have some of the lowest personal income taxes in Atlantic Canada, and that has to change. It will not, however, that will not change for low and middle income earners.
He was also clear that changes are coming to MUN.
Memorial University needs to figure out what it wants to be when it grows up. It has amazing potential, and it too is at a crossroads of whether it wants to be a university for everybody every day, or if it wants to make a more specific, if it wants to take a different route. We need to make sure that we're turning out the educated students for the jobs of tomorrow.
Although Furey says nothing will be decided until after public consultations, NDP leader Alison Coffin doesn't believe those consultations will truly influence the government's decisions.
I mean, it would have been nice to hear him say, we need to do consultations, and here's the schedule. But we got none of that. And in fact, what we did get was, we're going to consult, but you better not disagree with what we're doing.
Furey said bold actions are coming soon. The next provincial budget is expected at the end of May. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
This morning, the Premier explained to reporters why he wasn't available to answer questions after his address yesterday. Have a look.
Because it was my son's birthday last night. He turned 10. His only request with his mom in isolation was that I take him to hockey.
Of course, the Premier picked yesterday, his son's birthday, to air that address to the province. Here he is explaining why he had to record the message and air it then, not today or even next week.
As I said that I would do it within the week. I didn't believe it was appropriate to do it on a Friday evening, and I wanted to take the time, and I'm here now answering all your questions.
Political veterans have some concerns about the Premier's speech and how he delivered it. I'll chat with them coming up a little later on Here and Now. In other news, though, George Brake was back in a Corner Brook courtroom today. The 67-year-old has been in custody for almost 6 months following a high-speed chase near Deer Lake. Brake faces charges of dangerous driving and flight from police. Previous charges, like threatening the lives of politicians, were dropped. The Crown is pushing for probation as well as a driving and weapons ban for the man, while Brake's lawyer would like for him to keep his license. Brake spoke during the trial, saying his health is deteriorating and he doesn't have family or friends to turn to support him upon release. The judge will make her decision next week.
There are 6 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the province. 3 are in the Eastern Health Region. All are related to travel. 3 are in the Western Health Region. 2 are contacts of previous cases, and 1 is domestic travel. There are now 8 confirmed cases related to the outbreak in the Codroy Valley. But health officials say there are no new cases associated with the school, so that total there remains at 3. And they say there is no indication of community transmission in the area. Now, there's also an expansion of vaccine rules in the Eastern and Western Health regions. In those places, appointments for vaccinations for people aged 30 and over can now be made. And due to the new testing protocols, where everyone is tested, flight advisories will no longer be issued. If there is potential exposure on a flight, individuals might be contacted by health officials. Now, in national COVID news, Manitoba recorded close to 500 new COVID-19 cases today, and this the day after it set a single-day record for new infections. And all of this is putting a large amount of stress on the healthcare system there. One retired physician says the province let its guard down in the fight against COVID-19, and that's something that no province can afford to do.
When you have COVID that with the new variants, which are even more contagious, you can't let down. You need to continue to do contact tracing. You need to test, isolate, just as Montreal has been doing and doing very well with it. Our restrictions came too late. You know, with the Premier saying that we delayed the 3rd wave, we did not delay the 3rd wave. We delayed our action to reacting to what is coming to us.
Now, the latest data indicates the number of patients ending up in intensive care in Manitoba's hospitals is exceeding the province's most extreme projections for the 3rd wave. And those numbers are expected to climb over the next 2 to 4 weeks. Now, back here at home, a family from Davidsville is trying to put their lives back together this week after a house fire killed 3 family pets and destroyed just about everything they owned.
Loretta Collins, her husband, and her 3 children are waking up this morning in a motel room in Gander and trying to pull off a big celebration. Here now's Garrett Berry has that story.
It's a night to remember, and maybe a bit of a break from it all.
Just to focus on him for one day because he deserves that more than anything.
Everything has changed. On Mother's Day, a harrowing call.
Saying what my daughter is saying, that
She was 20 minutes away from home with almost no service when she got that call for help. So all she heard...
She was crying on the phone, and she was saying, "Mom, the house is on fire and I can't." And then, of course, I lost service.
It was overwhelming.
Not knowing if they're in a house burned alive. I don't have words for that. And I'll never, that feeling I don't think will ever leave me again.
When she did make it back home, she found her 2 daughters safe. But her family house was destroyed, and everything in it was gone.
But it could have been worse. I could have been planning a funeral today.
They call it a freak accident, a stovetop that was accidentally switched on. So now, from the Country Inn Motel, the family's trying to put their life back together. And the first order of business, grad night. His first tux was lost in the fire. This one is a gift from a family friend. That's just some of the help and the love that this family has seen.
I'm overwhelmed with so much good that's still in the world. Yeah, and I just want to thank each and every person.
James worked hard to get here, and though this isn't the kind of grad night he had been promised...
It is a good day. We're all here. Right, we're still here, and, you know, we might have lost a few things, but this material, we'll get it all back, eh?
The suit fits, and through it all, his father couldn't be prouder.
James, he's my firstborn son. You know, every man wants, you know, a son, eh? You know, you know, best achievement of my life, basically.
Garrett Berry, CBC News.
Hello, you boy. We're strong, boy. Come on.
Gander.
Well, some showers are rolling across the Avalon as we speak. It's going to be a pretty unsettled weekend for the most part. I'll get into the details coming up.
As we head into the weekend, Ashley, things are fortunately improving in Labrador, especially on the coast, where weather has not been good over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've had a few breaks here and there, but overall it's been not very nice. With that area of low pressure that we've been talking about for the past couple of days is on its way out.
Bye-bye.
We're going to say goodbye.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what most people are saying. Let's take a look at the temperatures, though, although it was still very much in place today, keeping those temperatures between 2 to 3 degrees for most areas along the coast of Labrador, and then single digits for the northeast coast of the island as well. 5 to 8 degrees. St. John's reached 10 this afternoon, and that temperature has dipped now to about 7 degrees. Most of us are sitting in those single digits. Down along the southern portion, though, you're still sitting in about 10 to 11 degrees into the evening. Taking a look at the satellite and radar right now, we do have some showers working their way across central and eastern areas as well. That will be the story as we head through the next couple of hours, and then that risk should end as we head through the overnight tonight, certainly towards midnight. And then unsettled for Labrador as well. Now, as that area of low pressure continues to move off, the winds are going to shift, which is going to bring in some cooler temperatures with it through the evening hours tonight and then into the first half of tomorrow. Still looking at that risk of some showers or flurries for coastal areas, maybe through central Labrador as well as we get into the morning hours. So temperatures tonight, 1, 2, 3 degrees will be the overnight lows. The winds shifting to northwesterlies, and not too much to speak of, though, only 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. But that risk of showers for the next couple of hours. West and southwest looking at a pretty nice evening with partly cloudy skies, but overnight lows about 2 to 3 degrees above zero. Labrador -2 for Lab City. You're sitting in the potential for a few flurries, and then everywhere else looking at about 1 to 2 degrees as your overnight lows. Tomorrow the weather's going to start to improve. The first half of the day, though, we're still looking at the unsettled conditions. Flurries in the morning, changing over to showers in the afternoon as those temperatures climb for coastal areas of Labrador. And then for the island, first half of the day looking nice. We'll see increasing cloud through the afternoon, and also the risk of some isolated showers through central, southern, and eastern areas of the island, as well as the northern peninsula through the day. Southwest looks like it should see plenty of sunshine into the afternoon. And taking a look at the numbers for tomorrow, 10, 11 degrees for the island, 13 degrees for the Avalon. Marystown sitting around 13 degrees tomorrow. Again, those winds will be out of the northwest, so anywhere in that north-facing coast, you're still going to see those temperatures a little cooler, likely only reaching the single digits, about 20 to 40 kilometer per hour winds expected. Generally gray as you head towards Clarenville, Bonavista, with a chance of showers through the afternoon. 6, 7 degrees for Twillingate and Gander as well. Harbor Breton, though, will see some sunshine peek out, but you'll see those afternoon showers, about 10 to 12 degrees. For you, same thing for Grand Falls. Winds are staying generally cloudy through the evening or through the afternoon hours. A double-digit day for Port aux Basques, 10 degrees. Cloudy periods, though, expected. Some sunshine in play for Stephenville, Quarterbrook, and Gros Morne. You'll see generally cloudy skies with that potential for some showers. Same thing for the Northern Peninsula. Daytime highs 6 to 8 degrees. Again, some flurries in the morning for the southeastern portion of Labrador, and then showers into the afternoon. Your temperatures should reach around 3 to 5 degrees. And then if we look to the north a little bit, you're looking at about 3 degrees for Nain, and then finally seeing some nicer temperatures, 8, 9 degrees for Lab West with some sunshine and winds relatively light through the afternoon. So over the next couple of days, we're going to see some cooler temperatures well below where we should be sitting this time of year. Average high in St. John's should be about 11 degrees. That's really where it is across the board. We'll finally get there as we head into next week, even some teens in the forecast for some areas, but I will get into those details and have the rest of your weekend forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Music and singing filled the rooms in St. John's this afternoon. The event marked the start of celebrations for the Sharing Our Cultures event. The ceremony included a parade of flags and a video presentation by students from around the province. This is the 21st year for Sharing Our Cultures in St. John's. It was started as a way to help immigrant and refugee school children share and learn from one another. At today's Tee Up, a student from Holy Heart High School in St. John's read an original poem.
My name is Mashrika Mahmood. I'm a student here at Holy Heart. I'm so honored to be here today. This is a poem I wrote called Kamala. She is not perfect, she may not be right, but I am so grateful she is here to shed some light. An example of someone she could be, someone who shows her she is not lost in a white sea. And for the first time, someone that looks like me is at the podium. It is not perfect, it is not nearly enough. It is the first draft. For some, it is a life raft.
Because really the big picture is that Colombians are tired, angry of decades of poverty, corruption.
A rally in St. John's to show solidarity with the citizens of Colombia. More than 40 people have died in what's become a national strike all over the country's difficult economic state.
My next guest is organizing a protest to point out to everybody in Newfoundland and Labrador what is happening right now in Colombia. It's dominating international news, weeks now of riots. Viviana, why did you want to have a protest in St. John's?
A basic need, human need to share these strategies with people around me. That's how this started. When I first learned about this brutality, I just cried and cried and cried, and then I decided to look for help. And then people came and we decided to organize to engage more people, people who might not have any idea of what's going on.
Well, let's talk about that. For people, for Here Now viewers who might not be aware of what's going on in Colombia right now, what is happening?
It is a national strike. It started in April 28th. It was sparked by a proposed tax increase from the government in the middle of the pandemic. The government withdrew the reform, but protests continued because really the big picture is that Colombians are tired, angry of decades of poverty, corruption, systematic violence, especially targeting social and environmental leaders who usually come from indigenous and Afro-Colombian communities in rural areas. So we've been experiencing violence for many, many years. It's now evident. It's sad to say that as well because we know that's been happening, but now that we're seeing in front of our eyes in urban areas, hundreds of videos showing police shooting people everywhere, there's no words
and I think
to describe it.
International organizations, Amnesty and other groups have pointed out that even in the course of these protests, 50 people have been shot and killed. What do you hope people who see your protest today at the Colonial Building, what do you hope that they will take away from what you're trying to organize?
That they will join us to get the attention of the Canadian government. We need the Canadian government, the international community, to put pressure on the Colombian government. Our president, the worst president in our history, in the worst times, is not listening. He's just using force. He justifies it. It's like if he's in a bubble.
But why would such a man listen to Canada?
Because our relationships, and actually Canada has funded Colombia many different programs, including against drug, which is a failure. And because Canada, as a developed country and a powerful country in the world, we hope will have some weight on our government.
Viviana, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I really hope we're going to get the attention we need to stop the violence in Colombia.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, last month, CBC's Parliamentary Bureau sat down with a retired military couple. Kevin and Annalise Shamoon wanted to speak out about the culture of abuse in Canada's military. It began in Kingston in 2013 when a longtime friend and soldier assaulted Annalise twice. High-ranking military officers threw their support behind the convicted sexual offender. Here's part of their story.
There's a lot of soldiers who have gone through really horrible experiences and had PTSD and lost their marriages, and they never used it as an excuse to sexually assault anybody.
It was an extremely painful betrayal. This offender violated my wife in my home and then was supported by senior levels of the chain of command.
One of the people who provided a character reference for Annalise's attacker was Major General Peter Daw, commander of the Special Forces. Following CBC's story last month, Daw stepped down. But CBC has since learned that a non-profit military support group enlisted that same sexual offender as a mentor, and that he was working with victims of sexual assault even after his convictions. Ashley Burke has that story.
It just feels nice in my hands and helps to keep me grounded.
Retired Canadian Forces medic Tina Sharp enrolled in a 6-day trauma retreat to heal, but says she left more damaged than when she went in.
I was suicidal when I drove away. I wasn't in a good place for a very long time after I left Project Trauma Support.
She took part in the Eastern Ontario program in July 2018 with a dozen female veterans as well as first responders. Sharp said they all had experienced sexual trauma and had post-traumatic stress disorder. She thought it was a safe space, she said, but later found out their peer mentor was a registered sex offender.
I'm filled with deep anger. And in the process of trying to heal from my military sexual trauma, I was exposed to a sex offender who had already reoffended.
She said the doctor running the program, Manuela Joanno, failed to tell participants about retired Major Jonathan Hamilton's criminal past. Less than a year before the retreat, he had been convicted in 2 different sexual assault cases and was in the midst of appeals.
Why wasn't I told? Why weren't any of us told?
Sharp said she discovered it by searching his name online, then confronted Joanno during the retreat.
She told me that she knew where I was going with this and not to believe everything that I read in the paper. That some men were victims as well, and she asked me not to tell anyone.
I feel like as a doctor, she's supposed to have our safety, like, should have been her #1 priority, and to bring in a sex offender is, like, just wrong.
Volunteer firefighter Chrissy Johnston only found out about Hamilton's past after she left. She filed a complaint with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. An investigation found Joanno knew about Hamilton's convictions, but said the court sanctioned his participation in her program and safeguards were in place.
I feel kind of violated, like she violated our trust and that I can't really trust anyone anymore.
Sharp said she's still recovering.
3 years. It's been almost 3 years.
The Premier mentioned that the fiscal state of the province is a state. I think his messaging to this point has been an equal state. It's been somewhat patronizing.
Just ahead, we have our political veterans weighing in on the Premier's state of the province and plans to deal with the financial crisis. In Andrew Furey's State of the Province address, he said this province is in a state. He accepted one of the main findings of the Green Report, that action isn't just needed, it's urgent. In his recorded message, he said taxes are going to go up, a new deal is needed with Memorial University, health boards will amalgamate. So what does that mean for consultations? Well, let's bring in our political veterans. Colin Holloway is a former Liberal MHA, Sandy Collins, former PC Cabinet Minister, and joining us this week is former NDP leader Lorraine Michael. Thanks all three of you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Hey, Peter.
So before we start, I want to play a clip from the Premier's news conference this morning about the need to act. Here's what he said.
But we can't keep borrowing $1.2 to $1.5 billion in a fiscal gap year after year after year. This is very common sense, very much common sense. If we keep doing that, the bankers will be at our door and someone will make those decisions for us. What will happen eventually is we will continue to borrow to pay on the debt. The interest rates will go up. We won't be able to afford it, and we won't be able to pay teachers, doctors, nurses, hardworking frontline people. So we need to take control over our destiny now and address the debt problem in this province. I didn't create it. I'm here to try to fix it. I gave up my job to try to fix it. That's what I'm here to do. I think there's a misinterpretation of my political ambitions, and that this is all based around trying to secure the next election. This is a crusade about saving the province, not about the next election.
Are you willing to take steps that won't get you reelected?
Yes.
Okay, won't get reelected. It's rare to hear a politician admit they might be willing to do that. Colin, I want to ask you, you were part of a government that had a lot of public backlash when some of those same sort of ideas were floated in 2016. What do you make of the Premier's comments now?
Well, Peter, in 2016, there were a lot of the things that we see either Premier Furey referencing today, or certainly what was referenced in the 2016 budget, that were many of which were not able to be materialized because of the public backlash, I guess. It seems like Premier Furey is not concerned about, as he says, about being reelected. I mean, if you look at his comments last night, his comments to the scrum this morning, everything that's in the Green Report seems like he's endorsing most of those recommendations. But I think people are going to be a little bit confused. On one hand, he talks about he's going to be consulting, and there's a consultation plan that's been laid out with virtual town halls and online submissions. But then also in his media scrum this morning, he talks about that there's bold measures are coming, and that any alignment with measures in the budget are just coincidental. Talks about a 4 to 6 year plan. So some things we'll see this year's budget, or we're going to see them in multiple budgets coming forward. But they're not going to impact seniors, which we know is the biggest percentage of our population. And it's not going to impact vulnerable individuals. But he also talks about we get the lowest personal income tax rates in Atlantic Canada. I can't see anything but seeing tax increases, fee increases. They are very likely in this budget, and they're going to come when the budget comes down at the end of the month. I think there's a bit of softening as well, if you listen to his speech, in terms of the core public service. He references that staff levels are at a 2004 level. His target seems to be the boards, agencies, and commissions. But he also wants to eliminate waste and extinguish redundancies. So, I think the reaction we've seen from the unions are having an impact already. But many of these other things that we've seen in the Green Report and from the Premier's first comments on this, I think they're going forward regardless of what a consultation plan might look like. For me, it equates to, here you went to the doctor and the doctor said, hey, I'm the doctor. I understand what your issue is. Here's a pill. Take it. It's good for you. Trust me.
Okay, Lorraine Michael, in his speech, he talked about people being paramount, everything else being an accounting exercise. Do you think these are going to be genuine consultations, especially with the concerns that we just heard there from Colin?
Well, I get concerned when I hear them talk about consultation, because we've all, the three of us who are on this panel tonight, we all have been through, consultation processes, and I've seen them where hundreds and hundreds of people take part. But then when it comes to the government decision making, I don't see the results of those. You know, I can remember when we did the health consultation. This was back when Jerome Kennedy was the minister. And the stuff around home care, for example, and care of seniors, I sat in on those. None of it was ever done. So, you know, I think consultation has to be more than just listening to people. I think it means really sitting at the table with key groups and really working through stuff. So, for example, you know, we talk about the Green Report, but there's also a report that was put out by a very important group of people. I have to get the name, the People's Recovery, NL. And they have an excellent report. If you put their report side by side with the Green Report, you're not going to get the same recommendations. And yet everything that's in that report, which puts people first, which doesn't put a balanced budget first, everything in that report is also spoken to by economists and by specialists and by people who know what they're talking about. So I think the Premier needs to show that he is really ready to listen to every single voice that's out there. If he's really means it when he says that people are paramount, then he's got to mean all people. So he's got to find the way to listen to the people who are served, for example, by Gathering Place and the Stellar Circle. He's got to listen to the people who are represented by their unions. He's got to listen to the seniors. He's got to listen to the homeless.
No, I was just going to say, I think, and I agree with everyone here on the panel, and I think we're all singing from the same course book. But, you know, the Premier mentioned that the fiscal state of the province is a state. I think his messaging to this point has been an equal state. It's been somewhat patronizing, and I think it's been confusing. And I think all these comments that we're talking about here today are very true. He had an opportunity after Moya Green had come out and obviously stoked some fears, particularly with unions and public service and whatnot, and those who are vulnerable. He had an opportunity with this State of the Union, if you want to call it, to be able to come out and quell some of those fears and talk about how this is going to be, as he promised, a transparent and open, a fair process. And I don't think he did any of that. Instead, he had what was his address one night pre-recorded, not taking any questions, which is the exact opposite of open and transparency. He was showed up by the leader of the opposition who did the exact opposite, which I'd hoped to have seen our Premier do. Then the following day, acknowledging the fact he made a mistake the night prior, he comes out and answers questions. And again, then talks about confusing messages, talking about how things, it seems as though the ship has sailed on many of the items, whether it be tax increases or amalgamating the RHAs. Those decisions, I think, are made. However, he's still talking about wait for your consultation. So it's all over the place. It's frustrating. It's and I expected more and I had hoped for more, and that's not what we're getting. And I don't know who's giving him advice, but I can guarantee you these missteps are doing nothing for his public opinion, nor instilling the trust in people that will be required when he makes these tough decisions on our behalf. So it's really going down a bad road, and it's sad to see.
Sandy, you don't take his comments that the reason he couldn't do something live was it was his son's birthday and he promised he'd be home?
Well, you know, totally get that. I have children. I know about family responsibilities, but perhaps we should have had the address the following evening. That's fine. If he had something personal on the go, absolutely. But I think if we're going to do things, we need to do them right. So if he's unable to do it one night, that's fine. I'm sure the people of the province would understand. From what I understand, not many people were even expecting it at that point. It kind of came as a surprise. So if he would have put that off for 24 hours, I know for one, I would have been fine with that. And I'm sure others would be as well.
Exactly.
You know, if you want to,
he was in charge of the timing, right? It was all in his hands. So nobody said that had to happen the night that it happened.
Well, we're going to have to leave the discussion there. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining me and sharing your insights.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Well, there's a development at this hour in the Doug Snellgrove trial. The suspended RNC officer is charged with sexual assault, and he's on trial now for a third time. So let's bring back here now is Katie Breen, who's outside Supreme Court live in St. John's. Now, Katie, you mentioned earlier that the jury had asked some questions today, and tonight the group has more questions. What can you tell us?
Yep, one question, one answer, all centered on reasonable doubt. That's a question that they had earlier again today, but just now asked for more clarification. The judge in his answer said Snellgrove doesn't have to prove anything. The jury, he says, has to use common sense and logic in their deliberations. If you think Doug Snellgrove is guilty, probably guilty, or likely guilty, you have to find him not guilty. He says society has created those rules to protect the innocent. He wrapped up his answer, the judge, by repeating that if the jury thinks that Snellgrove is probably guilty or likely guilty, they have to find him not guilty. I overheard the lawyer say at the end there that they're planning to stick around, so that may mean there could be a verdict tonight. That's unclear, but CBC will continue its coverage. Live for Here and Now, I'm Katie Breen in St. John's.
Time for birthdays and anniversaries. William and Irma Perry are celebrating their 63rd anniversary tomorrow. Happy 54th anniversary to Harvey and Geneva Wiseman in Clarenville. Happy 58th anniversary to Maud and Bert Roberts in Upper Island Cove. And happy 59th anniversary to Frank and Ada Dean in North Harbour. Fern and Gilbert Penny are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary today. Congratulations also to Bob and Judy Mercer in Pasadena, who mark 50 years together tomorrow.
Lori and Linda Burt from Carmenville are celebrating their 50th anniversary today. Happy 59th anniversary to Winnie and Raymond Edwards in Horwood. Happy 67th anniversary to Dawn and Lydia Waterman of Gambo. Happy 50th anniversary to Kenneth and Peggy Rendell in Westport. It's a 50th anniversary for Morris and Addie Holloway in Bloomfield. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Fred and Mary Butt in CBS.
Walt and Debbie Isaac celebrate their 52nd anniversary tomorrow. Happy 51st anniversary to Rosina and Daniel Philpott from Plate Cove West. Happy 50th wedding anniversary today to Bert and Jean Nash in Mount Pearl. Robert and Gloria Efford, also in Mount Pearl, celebrate their 55th anniversary tomorrow. And Nelson and Audrey Nippard from Main Point today are celebrating 50 years together. John and Geraldine Martin in Hickman's Harbor are celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Now to some birthdays. Happy 95th birthday to Mary Shepherd in Gander. She's formerly from Harbor Grace. Blanche Biles in St. Anthony is celebrating her 97th birthday. Look at all those flowers. Happy 92nd birthday this Sunday to Bessie Stuckless from Twillingate. Happy 93rd birthday to Woodrow Snow from Kings Point. Woodrow now lives in Springdale. Happy 90th birthday to Wallace Maynard in Hawke's Bay. Helena Churchill from Paradise turns 100 tomorrow. Congratulations.
And happy 90th birthday to Grace Hollett in Badger. Happy 95th birthday to Bill Hotshot Maloney, who's celebrating in Gander on May the 20th. Happy 97th birthday to Grace Mitchell from St. Philip's. Best wishes from family and friends. Happy 93rd birthday to George Roach in Coley's Point. Happy 91st birthday to Dawn Hiscock from Corner Brook. Virginia Budgell of Northwest River is celebrating her 90th birthday. And Hilda Langhorne celebrated her 90th birthday this week. Hilda lives in Kelligrews. Happy 94th birthday wishes to Thelma Coates in Eddies Cove East. And happy 90th birthday to Margaret Dubé in Kippens. And congratulations to everybody. To a somewhat junior person now, we want to show you a colorful art project that's taking shape along the shores of Lake Ontario in Toronto, and it's all thanks to a 7-year-old boy.
Well, I was bored at home a lot, so I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to go, past the world. It's right off the world.
So that's Lucas Walker, the brainchild, literally, behind this rock snake slithering in the sand along a popular Toronto beach. He began placing painted rocks in a row next to the boardwalk, and pretty soon strangers started adding their own. It now stretches more than 90 meters all along that beach. Pretty cool. Nice work, Lucas. All right, before we get to the weather, the demand for puppies has soared during the pandemic. It's something that we've actually talked about on Here and Now, came close to getting one. Long wait lists to adopt through rescue groups here in Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as the rest of Canada, have some people looking south of the border.
Anthony, are you looking south of the border? Well, Preston Milligan reports that rescue organizations from the U.S. have no trouble traveling to Nova Scotia with truckloads of dogs up for adoption.
We are officially loaded up Scouts.
This video was shot 1 week ago in Beaumont, Texas. Janine Christian loaded this van with 33 dogs, all of them vaccinated, microchipped, and spayed or neutered, about to hit the road for the 34-hour drive to the Maine, New Brunswick border.
And there's Reggie and Rick. I wish it was just a wave on through.
Getting across the border was actually fairly easy. Anyone moving animals commercially into Canada from the U.S. is exempt from any restrictions. But the Canadian Food Inspection Agency does require proof that each dog is healthy and vaccinated.
But we had all of our paperwork from the federal border where we crossed, where we were approved there. We had the registration from Nova Scotia where we went online, where we were approved to clear there as well.
Crossing the border into Amherst with 33 dogs? No problem. Even the adopters who drove from the South Shore, New Glasgow, and Cape Breton were permitted to meet the van in Amherst to pick up their new puppy. Local volunteers here in Nova Scotia say they consulted with Minister of Municipal Affairs Brendan Maguire. They say he assured them no one would be fined, provided no one but the puppies got out of the car.
Tell me about that little puppy. How old is he? What breed? Let's get a look at him.
Well, he is a Shih Tzu Chiweenie, or Shih Tzu Chiweenie, whichever way people want to say it.
Joshua Michelin drove from his home near Truro to Amherst Saturday morning to pick up his puppy. To those wondering why adopters like him can leave their community and others can't, he offers this.
I believe the main difference between visiting people and what we did was it was literally going through a drive-through. It was literally like you go and pick up food. There was no human contact. There was no visiting.
Janine Christian says since she's been moving dogs north from Texas, no infections have been traced back to her group or the adopters. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Halifax.
Didn't see any beagles there in that story, but I know how you feel, Ashley, about adopting beagles.
I do.
Since you've done that yourself.
I have.
Cute
little drizzle.
So let's talk about the forecast, though. How much drizzle are we going to have to put up with from Mother Nature?
Good one. Well, we're going to see a few showers this weekend, certainly for eastern areas of the island, but the weather will finally improve for you in Labrador, like I've been saying for the past couple of days. So let's get into those details for you. Ridge of high pressure is going to move in, replace that area of low pressure as it moves out of the way. Sunday for the first half of the day looking a little bit cloudy, but we should see some sunshine through the afternoon for you across Labrador, maybe a few showers in the west, and then across the island. That low will start to sink a little bit south, but it is going to stay unsettled for most of the day, and that rotation around the high is clockwise, so we're going to see those northerly winds stick around, which means those cooler temperatures will stick around right along with it. We're looking at single-digit highs through the day on Sunday for anywhere in those north-facing coasts. Otherwise, temperatures should reach the double digits, and there's a look at that low as it sinks south into Monday morning. We are looking at some clearing skies with that as well, although it's a pretty weak low, so we'll more than likely see a little bit more cloud cover than we normally would with a ridge of high pressure. Taking a look at the temperatures through Sunday, there you go, 5-6 degrees through central and eastern Newfoundland. Away from that though, 11 degrees in Corner Brook, 12 in Marystown, and then Port aux Basques sitting around 9 degrees as the daytime high on Sunday. Double digits for Lab City at 10 degrees. Few showers possible for you on Sunday, but then plenty of sunshine. And then either showers or flurries to start for Cartwright, but you will see some sunshine as the day goes on. Ahead to Monday, look at those double-digit temperatures making your return to Labrador in the teens, actually. Lab City, 13 degrees, 12 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. It will stay a little bit unsettled. You're still looking at the potential for some showers, but some sunshine as well. 14 degrees for Corner Brook. Grand Falls winds are hitting those double digits as well. 11 degrees sunshine, the story for Monday for most of us. A few showers still possible for the east and only sitting at 6 degrees as the daytime high. After that though, we'll get back into those double digits for Tuesday and Wednesday. A few showers will return midweek next week, and then for central Newfoundland, those temperatures looking a lot warmer by Tuesday. 16 degrees it looks like, 14 for your Wednesday with the potential for a few showers. Again, daytime highs this time of year should be sitting around 11 degrees, so we'll be well above that as we head into next week through western Newfoundland as well. For Labrador, you'll see that through Tuesday. By Wednesday, we'll dip down back to those single digits, and then a nice forecast for western Labrador, 13 degrees for Monday, and then 9 and 10 as you head into Tuesday and Wednesday. Wanted to share this photo. Sure sign of spring there in Botwood. Some robin's eggs there. Linda shared that. Actually got a few photos of a few nests. Thank you for sharing all of your photos with us. And if you have any, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Great shade of blue.
Yes.
Robin's egg blue.
Hopefully those robins are flying west if they want to get any sort of decent weather this weekend.
That's correct.
Well, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching this week, and we'll be back on Monday.
Good night.
Good night.